Everyone says AI is changing business. That's true, but recently two stories made me stop and think. Not because AI failed, because smart companies with huge budgets still struggled getting AI into real workflows. And it reminded me of something I keep seeing everywhere. Companies think AI implementation means, you buy a tool, you automate it, and you make money, right? It's all about profit. The big companies, that's what they all think. That's not transformation. That's basically software shopping, right? You're swapping from software 1.0 to software 2.0. That's pretty much it. The uncomfortable reality, most AI projects don't fail because of AI. They fail because nobody owns the business outcome end to end. Today, I want to show you two examples that caught my eye and explain why the companies that win AI with AI won't necessarily be the most technical. They'll be the ones that understand the business deeply. Hello, I'm Shankar, 47-year-old engineer, biohacker. I want to live until 99 with AI, and I document my journey through this channel. This channel is about practical AI, health optimization, and with health AI. And then I do AI consulting. I build a lot of systems, just to learn AI, for my own personal use, for my business use. I just love AI. Play with it. So I'm interested in one question. Can AI survive reality? Because reality doesn't care about demos. Reality means people, processes, exceptions, economics, and incentives. That's where implementation becomes strategy, right? Okay, so story number one, Starbucks. Let me share my screen. So here's the headline if you guys missed it. So Starbucks ends AI inventory program after persistent failures. So Starbucks went deep. If you look at this, I'll go over this in a minute. So the company reportedly moved away from an AI based inventory system counting approach after operational challenges, right? So on paper, this looks great. Look at this, right? Inventory categories, count milk, syrups, toppings. I mean, this is where I think they did a overkill. Tablet mounted cameras and LiDAR for automated scanning. What is this, right? That's crazy. Whoever sold this bullcrap for a company that's so big, as diverse as a coffee shop, this is ridiculous. And then they rolled out in 11,000 North American stores. No wonder it failed. So the inventory sounded perfect, right? Supposed to count, the using the cameras and the lidar detectors, I guess, tablet, count the, I guess, the syrups, the milks, the coffee beans, all that stuff, and then they rolled out in 11,000 stores. Supposedly somebody thought, okay, it's probably saving some labor somewhere, or somebody sold them a, pipe dream or this big dream that, hey, you're going to make everything, you know, this huge savings, right? Like probably they showed millions on the paper. I've been that road. I've listened to these speeches. Except operations are in spreadsheets, right? When inventory isn't accurate, small mistakes create bigger downstream effects. Wrong replenishment, store shortages, unavailable products, employee frustration. Guess what? Employee frustrated, customer impact. This is something many teams miss. A model can look successful and the business can still struggle because business outcomes live in the edge cases, especially a business like Starbucks, a coffee shop that handles so many drink combinations, so many raw materials, supply chain, everything, it got to go flow through, at each store. There's a delivery, there's vanilla syrup needs to make it, milk needs to make it, even the milk, you got almond milk, fat-free milk, skim milk, oat milk, so many combinations. And if they think that one AI model is going to go, optimize this, I guess they learned a lesson the hard way, right? Okay, that brings me to the second story. So Pizza Hut. So here's another one I saw. I mean, it's it's funny that both of them kind of came around the same time. So Pizza Hut is facing $100 million lawsuit over its AI delivery system. Aha, who would what AI delivery system again? As soon as I saw that, okay. Somebody sold something, for Pizza Hut. Pizza Hut is already struggling. So probably somebody said, hey, I'll save you tons of money. If you do this, your franchisee guys will be happy, blah, blah, blah. I guess this platform called Dragon Tail sold AI technology aimed at optimizing food delivery. However, you know, um, again, it just ended up being a disaster. So, second story, right? So, obviously, this is an ongoing lawsuit involving Pizza Hut franchise, right? So, these are allegations and litigation, so not established conclusions. I just want to make it clear. But the business lesson is interesting. The claim is essentially the system optimized efficiency while customer experience suffered. Whether or not the claims are ultimately proven, this exposes a common implementation or exposes common implementation risk, right? Companies optimize measurable metrics. Customer experience outcomes, those aren't always the same. Driver efficiency, kitchen throughput, utilization, those are all internal metrics. What do customers care about? Did I get what I wanted, right? Was it fast? Was it good? In this case, pizza, is it fresh? Is it hot? That distinction matters. So, the real problem, this is where I think many AI initiatives go wrong for big companies, right? The big companies are all about how do I make that extra profit, right? They're very the competition, the shareholders, all this pressure on those, the CEOs, the COOs, the operating officers, the CTOs, all these guys, they want to say, okay, this AI buzzword. And they all say, how to make profit for the company and the shareholders, right? They got sold on this dream about AI. Let's just plug this AI in. Like I said, it's a software version 2.0 or 3.0, however you want to visualize it. So people start with where can we insert AI? Wrong question, right? The question should be what business outcome are we trying to improve? Because AI isn't strategy, right? AI is a leverage. I explained in several videos, AI is a leverage. And leverage amplifies whatever system already exists. Guess what? If your workflow is broken, AI scales the broken workflow huge. If incentives were wrong, AI accelerates the wrong incentives. That's why copy paste consulting rarely works. Every company says we need automation, but underneath, their constraints are different. Different customers, different economics, different behaviors, different risk, right? Every company is different. So, my framework for AI implementation, if I were implementing AI, which I did for my own full retail business that do $60 million, gross revenue every year. So I don't just go and drop, right? Again, this is retail business, very similar to Starbucks. Again, Starbucks owns thousands of stores. I run four, I manage four, and same with Pizza Hut, right? But again, the logic, the philosophy is going to be the same, right? So the order of the flow, what I would follow. Step one, define outcome, right? Revenue, customer experience, health outcome, time saved, right? So those are the outcomes that you got to think about. What are you trying to, your outcome is, you got to define it. Step two, map workflow. So not what leadership thinks, right? What not the shareholders think or what your CEO thinks, what actually happens, right? You got to be on ground zero. You got to understand. You got to understand the business, right? Step three, identify decisions. Where do humans add value, right? You got to look at the entire chain. You got to identify decisions. And then step four, find bottlenecks. Okay, so for me as a retail business, we sell a product, right? So we buy product. So there's delivery, there's receiving, and then you got employees. There's a manager. Manager needs to manage employees. There's hours worked. There's a lot of stuff. The product categories. Do we have everything in stock? Is it ordered at the right time? Right. So you got to find bottlenecks. Step five, apply AI selectively in each of those bottlenecks. Right. Let's say your entire for some companies, AIs don't even need AI because everything could be working as efficient as possible. I've seen those companies. It's like one or two small mom and pop companies, old school. They run it so efficient. I mean, the only thing the AI can help is they're probably using their old spreadsheet or something like that. But in those cases, they can do some small automations. But for the most part, you got to look at every little block. If you look at your business end to end, A to Z, you got to look at, okay, how does my block B looks like? How does my block X look like, right? How does my block T looks like? Measure behavioral changes because people adapt, right? Every AI system changes incentives, and you don't measure behavior, you're not implementing AI, you're deploying a software. So, for my example, like I was saying, inventory is a huge deal because we buy tons of inventory, right? So we got to buy, the delivery, the inventory gets delivered. I got to track everything so we don't lose. So every inventory lost or not counted is money lost, right? So it used to be, we get several invoices, our inventory system is broken, meaning there's several pieces. I wrote my own software for inventory, so my employees count inventory every day or every other day, and it's all tracked. It pulls from the POS, it pulls from my other inventory system, and it's all in in an app. So everything syncs continuously. They measure, they count, what's in there, and if it's mismatched, they add notes and they go investigate. Right. So that's the bottleneck I saw was an issue. We are losing money, and I solved it through AI. Okay. Same with the margins. Right. So sometimes when you run a retail business, you gotta apply discounts. I mean, like I said, the example could be the Memorial Day weekend, right? So a lot of retail places apply discounts. Hey, 20% off, 30% off, right? So they gotta be a rhyme and reason about it. So let's say you decided to apply a discount on a certain SKU or a certain category, and then your employee makes a mistake and added an extra SKU to it, or your POS made a mistake. Guess what? So it's a 4-day weekend, right? Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. Well, Friday work, but it's a 3-day weekend. So let's say we start the promotion yesterday, Friday, right? So, and somebody made a mistake, the manager won't even cut until Tuesday, right? So that's 4 days of lost revenue because you are discounting a product that's not even intended to be discounted. Because guess what? The employees and the manager are busy running the store, scheduling, may get busy because of sales, all kinds of stuff. So I implemented a margins AI report, right? So my managers get it every day. So obviously, we are limiting the damage. So let's say it's a mistake is made, it's actually caught the next day instead of waiting a couple of days, right? The managers don't have to go pull in all the report. So I automated the whole thing with AI. So now guess what? They wake up and that's the first thing they look at it. Margins report. Everything breaking down. Actually, who discounted what, which employee discounted the most, is it intention, is it a mistake? So they have a full view as soon as they wake up and check their mail. It's all in their hands. See, that's an example of strategic implementation of AI. Okay, here's my closing. All right. So my prediction: next generation of AI leaders won't be prompt engineers, right? They will be operators. You can buy the prompt guys. You can look at YouTube and rent these, hire these guys, AI consultants. They have no clue, right? They haven't run a business. So the if you need to implement AI, you need to be in the trenches. You need to run a business, right? So it works perfect. If you're a doctor, you are solving a problem, use AI. Don't hire a consultant. You go spend time or make sure you explain to the consultant exactly what you're trying to solve. Don't buy their bullshit. Oh yeah, I'll get you AI chatbot, or I'll do this. Don't buy this generic stuff, right? People who understand you need people who understand customers, teams, processes, economics, technology all together. It needs to be a one full package. AI knowledge is becoming accessible. Business judgment remains scarce, right? Nobody has business knowledge. All these kids, 20-year-old, 30-year-old selling stuff on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram. Again, trust me, they're all writing this AI bubble. They have no clue. They probably made, one or two consulting here and there, and they don't run business. They don't understand, right? The only solution is you need to be involved as a owner, whether you're running a healthcare practice, you run a retail business, or anything. I mean, obviously you think like you don't have time, but you need to, if you're investing money in AI, you need to pick the right person, to consult and to educate you. Okay, so that's why end-to-end thinking matters. Not because AI isn't powerful, but because power without direction creates noise, right? So wrap up. If this changed how you think about AI, subscribe, comment below. Again, you can even share what's your biggest AI rollout mistakes you have seen. Again, I cover a lot of AI videos. all from my own personal experience. I all build it for my health. Like I said, I want to live until 99, and I implement bunch of stuff, for my own business. That should be your goal as well. You gotta be the one making the decision, not some, consulting guy telling you what to do. It should be the other way around. You should be telling the AI consultant exactly what exactly you need, not some, like in the Starbucks example, not some, this light or all this bullshit. It's like, it's so funny when I read what they implemented. I bet they paid millions of dollars to even get this done. So, anyways, thank you so much for watching this video. If you like it, subscribe, like. Thank you so much.